And I have another way of defining it, actually, now that I'm thinking of it. The takeaways that I have from free will, and generally my lack of thinking that it exists, gives the ability to look at society in general. Like the way I look at it, like, okay, you have a bunch of people. People can do good and bad things. Society says, okay, you kill someone. That's a bad thing. Now there's a few things you can do about that. You can punish them because you want them to suffer, or you can punish them because you think it's better for society. It helps society run better. And I would argue that when you strip the making someone suffer piece out of it, you're left with something that works with the idea of there not being free will more. Because if, like, okay, for me, for example, if I think about someone suffering because they did something, I'm coming from the basis that I feel like people's decisions are all basically decided by their circumstances. So why would I want someone to suffer for hurting someone? I want to reduce suffering in general. So I want them to go to jail because I think that helps society and it prevents them from having other people suffer. And maybe there's a reform aspect in jail. But as far as like, if you think there's free will, then I can see it logical that you'd think you'd want someone to suffer for doing something bad because their soul has done something bad, and you want you want like them to repent or something. And that's where I think the conversation actually bears fruit of having actual effect, and it actually matters in the real world. So I don't know. That's what when I define free will, that's why I can't find a definition that works, because I can't find a definition of free will that could work that would make it so that someone doing something bad should result in them suffering. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I can elaborate on that more.
Here's a problem that I have with that argument, though.
Sure.
If you take that and like that mindset and apply it to the justice system, you're then saying that the people are essentially captive of like their actions. So if someone kills someone else, they didn't make that choice. They were essentially led there by everything else in their life. So why is it just to imprison them for killing that person if they're captive by their actions?
No, I don't see it that way at all. You're just saying, okay, everything's captive in action. Let's say a computer glitches or breaks or something and it stops working the way it should.
Yeah.
You're not going to keep it running because you're going to be like, well, the computer didn't say it's just a computer. Like you're not punishing the computer by throwing it out. You're just saying, okay, this just doesn't work anymore. So I see the same thing as that. I see that for jail. I see it as like, okay, you don't like punishment for me is just like, okay, you want society to work better, and you've decided this person just they don't work well in society, and so they lose their right to get to be in society, and they have to go to jail.
But the essence of a right is founded in the idea that people do have free will. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you have the right to be able to do these things, to be able to make these choices. And
I think for a lot of things, I think the pretending as though we have free will actually helps society work better, because we can assign intent to things. And assigning intent to something like murder or something like first degree, second degree, assigning, okay, did you want to do it, helps us determine how much of a risk you are to society. And so I think that's why we do it. But I think you can strip that. I think you can separate it. I think you can say, okay, you're more of a risk to society because you wanted to do that, but you still don't have free will, so I don't want you to suffer for it. I just want you to be removed from society because I think that's going to help society.
Is that not making them suffer? I mean, if you send somebody to jail, even if it's to remove them from society, now they're by themselves away from their family. That's still making them suffer, is it not?
Well, if that's required for them to be out of society, then that's the way it is. I'd still rather them be out of society, but I'm not coming from the basis of I want them to suffer, therefore I'm going to put them in jail. I'm coming from the basis of I want them to be out of society, therefore in jail. They're in jail. If they're suffering, that's incidental. In this case, I mean, it's unfortunate. Yeah,
So okay. I think that there are a lot of things to say in terms of how society, what society is built on now, and how it would need to change, with free will, without free will. I think that these can be separate conversations in the sense that one conversation can be, okay, what do we all think about free will from like a either a scientific or like spiritual standpoint where, you know, do we all think it does or doesn't exist, or maybe somewhere in between? We can treat that separately from, okay, now if it does or doesn't, what are the societal implications?
I disagree with that. No,
You think that
I think it's so hard to define free will that you have to consider the implications when talking about it. That's why I bring it up.
Okay.
I think it's
you're
so
saying-
difficult to properly define that I think you need the implications of what it actually
Interesting.
means to help frame it and then bring that back to the conversation itself.
Okay.
Okay.
But
And
You
but
seem
yeah,
like
what do
you
feel
want
about that?
to talk about
yeah, and this is where I was going to jump in, and I think with my definition of free will, I would actually base it in the complete opposite manner and say that you should take almost a selfish standpoint and just think about who you are, how you navigate your life, the ramifications of your choices on the people that you know, on what you experience, what brings you to where you are. And I think that's kind of the answer that I've sought and found, is through like the different interactions and experiences that I've had. Just all of the things that I've been able to do throughout my life, I don't think I would have been able to do without the choice to take certain actions.